K-pop Demon Hunters is almost a great film. And I say almost because there are a lot of things holding it back from being great. Mistakes that appear out of the blue when you pause the movie or when you look very closely at a scene. So in this video, I'll be going through the mistakes that make K-pop Demon Hunters a bad film. From Rumi having more demon markings than usual, to a plane flying without engines, down to Zoe knowing something that was impossible for her to know. And to top it all off, I will be revealing a shocking mistake that will change how you see the entire movie. So stick with me till the end. In the meantime, like and subscribe. Let's get to it. The first mistake I'll be talking about happened when Rumi saved those 3 elderly women in the movie. Not that I would mind if the demons had taken them, because I wasn't exactly a fan of those women. But that's not the point. The point is that when Rumi saved them, she moved so fast that we barely noticed anything other than her mighty swing that killed the demons. But if you slow that scene down and take a very close look at her outfit, you will see that she is wearing a crop top that reveals her arms, her neck, and her stomach. And what we know about these parts of her body is that they always have demon markings. But in this scene, she didn't have any demon markings on any part of her body. And it made me think about the time when she was wearing that exact outfit in a flashback scene, and we could clearly see the markings on her body. She was so aware of those markings that she hid away from her friends so they wouldn't see the markings. So can someone explain why in this scene where she saved the 3 women, she suddenly forgot that that outfit reveals her markings, and somehow she didn't have markings in that scene as well? It's just things that should be somewhere missing from there. Then there's number 2, which is a mistake of something that shouldn't be somewhere but is there. Remember that scene where the girls were writing the lyrics to Takedown and Zoe started crawling towards the wall of posters? There were lots of pictures there, but just focus on the ones on the right. I already found it very weird that those girls had so many pictures and posters of the Saja boys. But what was even more weird and wrong was the picture that was on the right. It was a picture of Saja boys in their demon form wearing a hanbok. By all sense, that picture shouldn't exist, let alone exist in the girl's house. I say this because the Saja boys wear that hanbok only 2 times in the entire movie. The first time was when Jinu brought the idea of a demon boy band to steal the fans to Guima. And the second was at the end of the movie when the Saja boys performed Your Idol. The performance at the end of the movie hadn't happened yet, and the girls weren't in the demon world when Jinu pitched the idea to Guima, so that picture shouldn't be there. The third mistake is basically a magic trick performed by Houdini himself. It was in that scene where the girls had just finished performing How It's Done on stage, and they told Bobby they were going to their couch so Bobby could take the trip he had planned for them. Throughout the time Bobby was talking, there was a VIP card around his neck. We could all see the VIP boldly written on the card that had a very stylish picture of Bobby on the card. After Bobby told the staff to robe him and he began walking away, the girl said, "Bye, Bobby." Now, this mistake moves very fast, so I will need you all to pay very close attention to the shot. After the girl said goodbye to Bobby, he turned to walk away. In that very short time we saw him turn away, the VIP card around his neck disappeared. Like it completely vanished into thin air, as though we didn't just see the card being flashed in our faces just seconds ago. Anyways, let's move to the next mistake. This mistake happened on the plane, and all you have to do is take a very close look at that scene where the demons ripped off one of the plane wings. What I want you to do is look towards the right, and you'll see the plane engine at the side. But in the next shot, when the girls were standing in front of the plane with the front end missing, we saw that the 2 wings were visibly damaged, but the engine that we saw just some seconds ago wasn't there anymore. Where did the engine go? Or do planes now run without engines? There are a lot of things that just don't make any sense in this entire movie, but this one is definitely up there, as is the next mistake. And it happened when the Saja boys were performing Soda Pop. We all saw the boys going around doing good deeds for people. One of those good deeds involved Jinu helping a girl apply mustard to her corn dog. That seemed like a genuine act, right? Well, the girls didn't really think that because immediately after Jinu left, they all rushed the poor young girl and snatched her corn dog from her. They threw it to the ground and all began stomping on it like they were delivering some jungle justice to someone that just committed a heinous crime. But guess what? That corn dog didn't feel a single thing. Instead of getting broken or squished to absolute nonsense, the corn dog was bouncing like it was made of rubber. Now, I know that everyone shares different opinions about different things, but one thing I know that we can all agree on as a species is that food doesn't bounce. And any of you that don't agree with me on that are probably demons that don't know how the human world works. Moving on. The sixth mistake is a series of events that just didn't rhyme. It all began one morning when the girls were rehearsing for their Idol Awards performance. You saw Rumi complaining about how she didn't like the song and she didn't think it was the right one for their performance, and Mira told her that the Idol Awards were tomorrow, so they couldn't change the song even if they wanted to. After that conversation, the day went by and Rumi went to hang out with Jinu at night. During that hangout, they sang Free together, and Jinu told Rumi that he would make sure the Saja boys lost tomorrow during the Idol Awards. Even when he called her back because he wanted to confess his feelings but was too chicken to do it, he just told her that he would see her tomorrow. Scaredy cat. Anyways, let's move on to the next day, which is the long-awaited tomorrow that everyone had been talking about. In the morning, the girls had a meeting in their living room where Rumi said they can win tomorrow, but Takedown isn't the right song for them to do that. Wait a minute, let's take a few steps back. What does she mean she thinks they can win tomorrow? Doesn't she mean tonight? I just can't. Up next is a mistake that just makes you realize how little effort was put into planning the movie. Don't get me wrong, it's a very creative movie that took a lot of creative minds a lot of time to put together. But when it comes to the planning of the movie, I don't really think they did that very well. You can already see that from the previous mistake I talked about, but in this one, it's even more clear. It happened on the airplane when the girls were talking about how the show was their biggest one yet with the most songs and the most moves they have ever performed. And most of that is true, like the show being their biggest one yet. That is definitely true because we saw how huge the crowd was. And I can't even argue about the show being the one with the most moves because those girls danced. But for the part about it having the most songs, that is definitely a mistake that translated into a big lie. Just think about it. The only song they performed was How It's Done, and they didn't even perform the full song on stage. Remember that they started singing from the airplane and only landed in the arena halfway through the song. The planning team should have done better. That is, if there was a planning team. Now, the eighth mistake is one of the most shocking ones in the entire movie because it happened right in front of us. And I think it's by far one of the boldest mistakes in the movie as well. Because if it isn't bold, then explain to me why Abby's buttons all snapped off his shirt when he stretched to show off his muscles, and in like 2 to 3 seconds, the buttons went back like they never left. I know you're wondering which scene I'm talking about, so to clear the air, let's go back to that scene where the Saja boys and Huntrix met for the first time. Mira and Zoe were already freaking out when they saw the boys, and Abby decided to take things a lot further by showing off his biceps and muscles. His shirt was already too small and tight on him, so that stretching just broke it to its limit. We saw all his buttons come off. One of them even smacked Zoe on the forehead. You'd expect to see a man with an open shirt flexing his bulky chest and tight abs, but instead we saw all these buttons back in place and his shirt properly buttoned up. And what's funny is that this mistake wasn't the only one that involved a wardrobe malfunction, if we can call it that. But yeah, number 9 is a proper wardrobe malfunction. And this one involves our favorite guy in the entire movie. I promise you, if you thought about Jinu right now, I'll smack you through your device. We all know that our favorite guy in K-pop, Demon Hunters, is Bobby, so don't you ever get it twisted again. Anyways, this mistake happened when he came into the girls' living room to inform them that their new single, Golden, was trending. When he walked in, he was wearing a bathrobe and a white t-shirt underneath the bathrobe. That white t-shirt was designed with a Huntrix logo. It was so beautiful that I wanted to see the whole thing. So I was really excited when we began spinning around and he was about to throw off his bathrobe. He eventually threw off the robe, and instead of the white t-shirt with the logo design on it, we saw a plain white t-shirt. Like there was no design on it at all. How does a shirt go from having a lot of designs to no designs at all? That is just impossible. It doesn't make any sense. While we are still on the topic of wardrobe malfunctions, I think it's important I mention one of the most embarrassing mistakes that happened to Rumi. And I hate this mistake in particular because it interrupts a very intense scene. Remember when Rumi walked into the arena to battle Quima? She looked serious and deadly. And don't even get me started on her demon appearance. She looks like she was going to rain down hell. But such an intense scene was interrupted by her earrings disappearing. What am I talking about? Well, just watch her ear as she walks into the arena. She had 3 earrings on one ear, but we saw 2 out of those 3 earrings completely disappear. Like it just went poof. And a few seconds later, the earrings came back, pretending like they never left in the first place. Well, at least the mistake tried to correct itself. The next mistake didn't even try to do that. Remember that scene I talked about earlier where demons ripped off one of the plane's wings? Well, there was another mistake in that scene that a lot of people didn't catch. After the demons had torn off the wing, we saw the girl standing at the edge of the plane. There were so many things wrong with that particular scene, but I am going to talk about one in particular. We saw that plane still had 2 wings. How can that be possible when we all saw the demons tear off one wing? Like I said, this mistake didn't even try to correct itself because there was no way to correct it. After all, an airplane wing being torn off isn't like an earring disappearing and reappearing. It is just not that simple. So I don't know why they even make such a huge mistake that can't be easily undone. The 12th mistake is a lot simpler than the previous one. It happened backstage at the Idol Awards when the girls were awaiting their turn. In that scene, we saw Mira throwing hefty blows into a punching bag. Well, technically she was throwing blows into the picture that was on the punching bag. And that picture was huge. It was a picture of Abby Sajas's abs, and the picture basically covered the entire punching bag. But after Bobby ran into the room to inform the girls that the Saja boys were fighting, so they had to perform first, I took another look at the punching bag in the background, and it wasn't the same size as the first time we saw it. The picture was so much smaller, almost as small as a notebook. The only thing I could think about at that point was who made this mistake, and why would they make such a mistake? But I guess I don't get answers from asking myself questions, now do I? Anyways, let's go back to Rumi for a little bit. Remember that scene where she stood aside clapping her hand during the fan signing? Something very unique happened there that I would never stop laughing at whenever I watched that scene. It's like the animators were not satisfied with the amount of comedy in the movie and decided to sprinkle their own all over with these tiny, stupid mistakes. If you look closely at Rumi's earrings in that scene, you will see that she is wearing just one earring. And I don't mean one on each ear. I actually mean just a single one. So one ear had an earring and the other did not. Yet somehow, right in front of us, that earring jumped from her right ear to her left ear. When I say jump, I mean it disappeared from one ear and reappeared in another. This next mistake isn't technically a disappearance, but it is really close, and it involves our fashion queen Mira. Remember that scene where the girls were so hyped up about writing the greatest diss track of all time? We saw Zoe roll out all her lyric books, and in excitement, all the girls began running out of the living room to get to work. They all jumped over a couch instead of going around it, and I kind of understand that. But what I don't understand is what happened with Mira's second feet. If you look very closely at Mira's legs, you will see that the first leg went over the couch and the second passed through the couch. Oh no, you didn't hear that wrong. That second leg actually phased through the couch, like Mira was some kind of spirit or being from the future. Or maybe she is a glitch in the system. Haha. But it really did happen. You just have to slow it down to see it. The next mistake on our list is so obvious that you don't even have to slow the movie down to see it. What you have to do is simply look, and it's right there for you to see. This mistake happened at the end of the movie in the arena. We saw a fan that wore a t-shirt that had Gui Ma's name on it. And to be honest, I first thought my eyes were deceiving me, but they weren't. I mean, these guys didn't just show us a quick flash of this fan who was wearing the t-shirt. We saw him walk into the arena, and we also saw him after the girls had defeated Grima. Humans don't know about demons, and they definitely don't know about Gui Ma, who hasn't stepped foot on Earth in hundreds of years. Yet we have a common fan who knew about Gui Ma long enough to create a t-shirt with his name on it before coming to the show. I mean, come on, there should be a limit to the kind of mistakes that are made. But I guess these guys have no limit. And somehow, that wasn't the only time in the movie where they made the character know what he or she shouldn't. The first time this actually happened was with Zoe, and it was at the beginning of the movie when we saw the flashbacks of different Huntrix members. In Zoe's flashback, we saw her writing song lyrics while in school, and we also learned she schooled in America. If we take a close look at one of her lyric books, the purple one, you'll see the word demon boldly written on it, and the O in the word was crossed out. Two things stood out to me in this scene. The first is that they were implying that Zoe knew about demons when she clearly didn't because she was a human child. And the second is that Zoe crossed out the letter O because she hated demons and wanted to hunt them. Like I stated before, humans don't know about demons, so how could a child know about them and want to hunt them? That's like saying 1 + 1 is 5. It doesn't just add up. At number 17, I have a mistake that will leave you completely shocked. When I was watching the movie, I couldn't wrap my head around why the editors would do this. It happened in that scene where the Saja boys were being announced on TV as the winners of every single category of the Idol Awards. There was a quick glitch before we saw Jinu and the Saja boys making an announcement that they would have a show by midnight. If you look into that glitch that happened before the Saja boys appeared to make their own announcement, you will see the Saja boys in their demon form. That shouldn't have happened at all. Glitches contain just static, but I guess they had drawn that image and they weren't going to use it anymore, so they just used it to fill in gaps, hoping that no one would notice. Well, guess what, guys? We noticed. We also noticed the 18th mistake, which they were hoping was moving too fast for us to see. It happened when the Saja boys were handing out gifts while performing Soda Pop. In that shot where they all slide past a group of children and hand out gifts to them, you will see something that can make you throw up the water you just drank. Behind Abby is Abby's behind. Does that make any sense? I was trying to sound like Master Yoda. Haha. Anyways, what I mean is that his butt was showing. Like his trousers were below his waist, so we could see his butt cheeks and butt crack. Embarrassing. This one happened after the joint fan signing between the Saja boys and Huntrix. When Bobby brought his phone over to show Mira and Zoe the fan edits of the girls with the Saja boys, there was one particular edit that stood out to me, the Miro Mabby edit. Unlike the rest of the girls, the picture of Mira in her own edit was not from that day. What I mean is that the pictures of Zoe and Rumi that were used in their edits were pictures that were taken right there during the fan signing. But Mira's was taken from a day that shouldn't even be possible. It was taken taken from the day that she and Zoe took Rumi to Healer Han's clinic, which we know is impossible because no one knew where the girls were going that day, not even Bobby. And yet, I'm supposed to just accept that someone was able to get a close-up picture of Mira that day? Nah. At number 20, we have a mistake that makes me think a lot. So, when Jinu announced that the Saja boys will have a show to apologize for not being available at the Idol Awards, he said that the show was by midnight. So, by midnight, they had the show and they performed Your Idol. Rumi, Zoe, and Mira then fought against the Saja boys and Guima. And when they won, it suddenly became morning. Hold on a minute, let me take it from the top. The show started by midnight, and yet by the time they defeated Guima, it was already morning? Nope, that's a lie. It's stupid. How do you not plan the time frame of things? The time jump is a complete mistake, unless they are trying to say that after the girls defeated Guima, they fast-forwarded time, which we know the girls can't do. Anyways, at number 21, we have a very funny mistake. The first time the Saja boys and Huntrix meet in that alley, we saw Mira and Zoe thirsting over the guys. And when Abby's buttons broke off his shirt, Zoe was basically knocked back and her hat fell off her head. You'd think she'd bend to pick it up and put it back on, but that's not what happened. What makes the scene very funny isn't that the hat just reappeared, it is that it reappeared in her hand with popcorn filled to the brim, and they began eating from the hat, using it as popcorn bucket. Anyways, back to that plane scene where we saw the girls jump from the plane. There was one particular mistake there that made my head turn so much. When the girls were falling from the plane, we all saw Mira using a hairdryer and combing her hair. First of all, if you don't think there's anything wrong with this scene, then I don't think you should ever be allowed to drive a car. Because anyone who's been in a convertible car or even a motorcycle knows that the rush of wind won't let Mira use a hairdryer, and that same rush of wind would blow her hair in ways that she cannot handle. So she wouldn't be able to comb her hair as well. This next mistake happened when Rumi and Jinu performed my favorite song in the entire movie. I know some of you are already trying to remember what song the two of them sang together. It's Free, and they sang it the night before the Idol Awards. Now, while they were singing, they held hands. I want you to look at Rumi's hands. You'll notice that they are completely covered with demon markings. That was the only time this happened, and it shouldn't have happened because only pure demons whose souls belong to Guima have markings that cover even their hands. Another thing that shouldn't have happened was when Rumi was fighting on the plane. We saw her holding her sword in her right hand. She was swinging it like she wanted to wipe all demons away with one swing. But like 1 second later, the sword was suddenly in her left hand, as though that was the hand she had been using to fight. You can't fool me, haha, my eyes are faster than a ninja. And finally, the mistake that was promised. It's a mistake that no one noticed was actually a mistake. It happened in the demon world when souls were traveling in. There were at least 5 souls coming into the demon realm, but all of a sudden, all the other souls disappeared and there was just one left. Guima ate just one soul out of the many that originally came in. And while talking to Guima, Jinu says, that soul is just a starter. Like, just one? It's like all the movie makers forgot numbers. Anyways, that's all for today. Leave your thoughts in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye.